Sarah Chen yawned as she adjusted her press badge. Another boring day at the Galactic Council headquarters, she thought. As a human journalist, she often felt out of place among the diverse alien species that made up the council. But today, something felt different. There was an energy in the air, a tension she couldn't quite place. The usual crowd of reporters gathered in the grand hall, a mix of tentacles, antennae, and limbs from across the galaxy. Sarah stood at the back, her petite frame dwarfed by the towering aliens around her. She pulled out her data pad, ready to take notes on what she assumed would be another dull press conference. As the Galactic Council spokesperson, a tall blue-skinned being named Thorlak droned on about trade agreements and diplomatic missions. Sarah's mind began to wander. Her eyes roamed the ornate hall, taking in the intricate designs that represented thousands of worlds. That's when she noticed it. A door, slightly ajar, that she had never seen before. Curiosity piqued, Sarah glanced around. Everyone seemed focused on Thorlak. Slowly, she inched her way towards the door. Her heart raced as she slipped through the opening, finding herself in a dimly lit corridor. The walls hummed with energy, and strange symbols glowed softly along the floor. Sarah's journalistic instincts kicked in. This was no ordinary restricted area. She pulled out her data pad and began recording, her fingers shaking slightly as she moved deeper into the unknown. The corridor seemed to go on forever, twisting and turning. Just as Sarah was about to turn back, afraid she'd gone too far, she emerged into a vast chamber. Her jaw dropped at the sight before her. Rows upon rows of massive starships stretched as far as the eye could see. These weren't ordinary vessels. They were warships, bristling with weapons unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Her mind raced. Why would the peaceful Galactic Council need a secret fleet of this size? Heart pounding, Sarah crept closer to the nearest ship. Its sleek design was both beautiful and terrifying. As she approached, a holographic display flickered to life. Sarah's blood ran cold as she read the information scrolling before her eyes. Target: Earth. Mission: subjugation and resource extraction. Sarah stumbled back, her mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. The Galactic Council, the very organization that had welcomed humanity into the galactic community, was planning to attack Earth. A noise behind her made Sarah jump. She whirled around to see a pair of security drones hovering at the chamber entrance. They had spotted her. Unauthorized life form detected. Initiating capture protocol. The drones buzzed in unison. Sarah's survival instincts kicked in. She ducked behind the massive landing gear of the nearest ship, her mind racing. She needed to warn Earth, but how? The drones were closing in, their scanners sweeping the area. As she pressed herself against the cold metal of the ship, Sarah's hand brushed against something in her pocket. Her communicator. But would it work this deep in the restricted area? With trembling fingers, Sarah pulled out the device. One bar of signal. It would have to do. She knew she couldn't send a detailed message, but maybe, just maybe, she could get out a basic warning. The drones were getting closer. Sarah could hear their mechanical whirring just on the other side of the landing gear. It was now or never. She quickly typed out a message. Earth in danger. GC has secret fleet. Planned attack. Not safe. Sarah. Her finger hovered over the send button. If she sent this, there was no going back. The Galactic Council would know she had discovered their secret. Her life as she knew it would be over. But if she didn't, Earth would be defenseless against this massive threat. The drones rounded the corner, their capture arms extending towards her. Sarah took a deep breath and pressed send. As the drones closed in, a small smile played on Sarah's lips. The message was out. Earth had a chance. Whatever happened to her now, she had done her duty as a journalist and as a human. The last thing Sarah saw before the drones enveloped her was the confirmation on her communicator. Message sent. Sarah's head spun as she regained consciousness. The cold, hard floor beneath her was a stark reminder of her current predicament. She was in a cell, that much was clear. The faint hum of energy fields told her escape wouldn't be easy. As her vision cleared, Sarah took in her surroundings. The cell was small, with smooth, featureless walls that seemed to absorb light. A single dim light source flickered overhead. There was no sign of a door or any openings. Well, the curious little human is awake. A gravelly voice spoke from the shadows. Sarah squinted, trying to make out the source of the voice. A tall, reptilian figure stepped into the light. It was Xorlak, the Galactic Council spokesperson. I must admit, Sarah Chen, I'm impressed. Xorlak continued, his forked tongue flicking out between words. No one has ever penetrated our security that deeply before. It's almost a shame we have to dispose of you. Sarah's heart raced, but she forced herself to remain calm. Why? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Why is the Council planning to attack Earth? Xorlak's scales rippled in what Sarah assumed was amusement. My dear, it's simply business. Your planet is rich in resources we need. The Council decided it would be easier to take them by force than to negotiate with your unpredictable species. As Xorlak droned on about the Council's plans, Sarah's mind was working overtime. She needed to escape, to get more information out. But how? Suddenly, a faint vibration caught her attention. Her captors had been thorough in their search, but they had missed something. In the heel of her shoe, hidden in a secret compartment, was a small emergency communicator, a gift from her alien friend, Zixtor. Sarah needed a distraction. She stood up abruptly, swaying as if dizzy. I don't feel so good, she mumbled, stumbling towards Xorlak. The reptilian spokesperson took a step back, his scales bristling with disgust. Guard, he called out. The human seems unwell. Deal with it. As a drone entered the cell, Sarah made her move. She lunged forward, using a move Zixtor had taught her. Her palm struck a specific spot on the drone's chassis, shorting out its systems temporarily. Alarms blared as Sarah darted past the stunned Xorlak. The energy field flickered as she passed through the cell entrance. She was out, but far from safe. Sarah ran through the winding corridors, her heart pounding. She could hear the thundering footsteps of guards behind her. Left, right, another right. The layout was confusing, designed to disorient escapees. As she rounded a corner, she collided with something solid. Looking up, she found herself face to face with a familiar set of tentacles. Zixtor, she gasped. The alien's eye stalks wiggled in what Sarah recognized as concern. Sarah, what have you gotten yourself into this time? No time to explain. Sarah panted. I need to send a message to Earth. It's urgent. Zixtor's tentacles moved quickly, operating a console on the wall. Quickly in here, he said, ushering her into what looked like a maintenance shaft. As the sounds of pursuit grew closer, Sarah pulled out her hidden communicator. With Zixtor's help, she managed to boost its signal. This is what I found, Sarah said, quickly transferring the data she had gathered about the secret fleet. Can you get it to Earth? Zixtor's tentacles flew over the console. It'll be risky, but yes. Are you sure about this, Sarah? There's no going back. Sarah nodded firmly. Earth needs to know. They need to be prepared. As Zixtor worked his technological magic, Sarah could hear the guards getting closer. They didn't have much time. Done, Zixtor exclaimed. The message is sent. But Sarah, you need to run. Now. Sarah gripped her friend's tentacle. Thank you, Zixtor, for everything. With one last look at her alien friend, Sarah plunged deeper into the maintenance shaft. She had no idea where it led, but anywhere was better than here. As she crawled through the dark, cramped space, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The message was out. Earth had been warned. Whatever happened to her now, she had done her part. The adventure was far from over, but for now, Sarah Chen, human journalist turned galactic whistleblower, had won this round against the Galactic Council. The emergency alarm blared through the United Nations headquarters in New York. Secretary General Amina Khoury rushed into the Situation Room, her usual calm demeanor replaced by a look of urgency. The room was already filled with world leaders, connected via holographic projections. "What's the situation?" Amina asked, taking her seat at the head of the table. A young technician stepped forward, his face pale. "Madam Secretary, we've received a transmission from deep space. It's not good." The room fell silent as the message from Sarah Chen played. As the implications of the Galactic Council's secret fleet became clear, a wave of shock and disbelief swept through the assembled leaders. "This can't be real," the President of the United States muttered, his face ashen. "I'm afraid it is, Mr. President," Amina replied, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. "Our deep space monitoring stations have confirmed unusual activity near the edge of our solar system. It matches the description of the fleet in Sarah's message." Chaos erupted in the room. Leaders shouted over each other, some calling for immediate military action, others insisting on attempting diplomacy. Silence. Amina's voice cut through the noise. "We don't have time for arguments. We need a plan, and we need it now." As the room quieted, the Chinese premier spoke up. "What resources do we have to defend against such a threat?" The UN's chief military advisor shook his head grimly. "Our most advanced ships and weapons are no match for what we're seeing in these scans. We're vastly outgunned." A heavy silence fell over the room. The realization of humanity's vulnerability in the face of this cosmic threat was overwhelming. Suddenly, the Indian Prime Minister leaned forward. "What about Project Prometheus?" Amina's eyes widened. Project Prometheus was a top-secret global initiative, combining the brightest minds from every nation to develop advanced defense technologies. It wasn't ready, but it might be their only hope. "It's not completed," Amina said slowly, "but you're right. It's our best shot." As the leaders debated the risks of deploying an untested system, screens around the room lit up with incoming reports. The news of the impending invasion had leaked. Panic was spreading across the globe. In New York, crowds gathered in Times Square, their faces turned to the sky in fear and wonder. In Beijing, people rushed to stock up on supplies, causing chaos in the streets. In Lagos, churches and mosques were filled to bursting as people sought comfort in prayer. Social media exploded with theories and speculation. Some claimed it was all a hoax, while others insisted the end times had come. Misinformation spread like wildfire, adding to the growing panic. Back in the Situation Room, Amina made a decision. "We need to address the public," she said firmly. "If we don't control the narrative, fear will tear us apart before the Galactic Council even arrives." As the world leaders prepared their statements, Amina turned to her aide. "Get me Dr. Aisha Patel from Project Prometheus. We need her here now." Hours later, in a globally televised address, Amina stood before the cameras, her face a mask of calm determination. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "today, we face the greatest challenge in human history. But I stand before you not in fear, but in hope. Throughout our history, humanity has faced seemingly insurmountable odds. Each time, we have risen to the challenge. Today will be no different." As Amina spoke of unity and resilience, teams of scientists and engineers around the world were already mobilizing. In underground labs and secret facilities, work on Project Prometheus kicked into high gear. Dr. Aisha Patel, a brilliant young physicist, stared at her calculations, a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. "This could work," she whispered to herself. "We might just have a chance." As night fell across the Earth, an uneasy calm settled over the planet. In homes and shelters, in crowded cities and remote villages, humanity held its breath. The next few days would determine the fate of their species. In the depths of space, unaware of the turmoil they had caused, the Galactic Council's fleet continued its inexorable approach towards Earth. The stage was set. Humanity's greatest trial was about to begin. The underground facility of Project Prometheus buzzed with frantic energy. Scientists and engineers from every corner of the globe worked tirelessly, their differences set aside in the face of humanity's greatest threat. At the center of this whirlwind of activity stood Dr. Aisha Patel, her dark hair messily tied back, eyes shining with determination. For days she had barely slept, fueled by a mixture of caffeine and sheer willpower. Dr. Patel, a young assistant, rushed up, tablet in hand. The latest simulations are complete. Aisha grabbed the tablet, her eyes scanning the data rapidly. A smile spread across her face. "This is it," she whispered. "Call the Secretary General. We're ready for a full-scale test." As the news spread through the facility, a cautious optimism began to take hold. Could this be the breakthrough they needed? Meanwhile, in cities and towns across the world, humanity was rallying in its own way. In a small garage in Detroit, a group of automotive engineers had repurposed their skills to develop more efficient power systems for the defense grid. In a tech hub in Bangalore, programmers worked around the clock, creating advanced AI systems to coordinate Earth's defenses. Even children were doing their part. In a classroom in Rio de Janeiro, students used their 3D printers to create components for communication devices. Their small hands moved with purpose, understanding the gravity of their task despite their young age. Back at the UN headquarters, Secretary General Amina Khoury received the call she had been waiting for. "It's time," she said to the world leaders assembled around her. "Dr. Patel is ready for the test." As one, they turned to the large screen dominating the room. The image flickered to life, showing a vast desert landscape. In the center stood a massive array of sleek, silvery devices, the culmination of Project Prometheus. Dr. Patel's voice came through, steady and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to witness is the product of human ingenuity and cooperation on an unprecedented scale. This shield, if successful, will create an energy barrier capable of withstanding the most advanced known weapons in the galaxy." The atmosphere was tense as Dr. Patel began the countdown. "Initiating shield in 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the air above the desert shimmered. A translucent dome of energy expanded rapidly, covering the test site in seconds. "Shield activated successfully," Dr. Patel reported, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "Beginning weapons test." A series of increasingly powerful energy blasts were fired at the shield. Each one dissipated harmlessly against the shimmering barrier. As the final, most powerful blast, equivalent to the strongest weapon they believed the Galactic Council possessed, failed to penetrate, a cheer erupted in the control room. In the UN headquarters, leaders embraced each other, tears of joy and relief flowing freely. For the first time since the crisis began, hope blossomed. Amina stepped forward, her voice filled with emotion. "Dr. Patel, on behalf of all humanity, thank you. Your work has given us a fighting chance." But Aisha's response was humble. "Thank you, Madam Secretary, but this wasn't just my work. This shield is the result of thousands of minds working together. It's a testament to what humanity can achieve when we unite." As news of the successful test spread, a new spirit took hold across the planet. The panic of the previous days gave way to a steely determination. In every country, people came together, offering their skills and resources to the global defense effort. Factories were retooled to produce components for the planetary shield. Farmers worked tirelessly to ensure food supplies. Everyone, from all walks of life, found ways to contribute. In orbit, the crews of the International Space Station worked with groundbreaking technology to coordinate the deployment of the shield on a global scale. Their efforts would be crucial in the days to come. As the first sections of the planetary shield flickered to life around major cities, humanity looked to the stars with a new perspective. They were no longer just tiny beings on a small blue planet. They were a united species, ready to stand against any threat the galaxy might throw at them. The Galactic Council's fleet was still coming, but now Earth was ready. Humanity's ingenuity had awakened, and it was a force to be reckoned with. In the vast chambers of the Galactic Council's headquarters, an emergency session was underway. The massive hall, usually a picture of order and calm, was now filled with heated arguments and rising tensions. High Counselor Zixnera, a towering figure with shimmering, translucent skin, called for order. Silence. Her voice boomed, echoing through the chamber. The noise died down as all eyes turned to her. "We face an unprecedented situation," Zixnera continued. "Our secret fleet has been exposed, and the humans are preparing for our arrival. We must decide our next course of action." Admiral Krotak, the military leader behind the invasion plan, stepped forward. His reptilian scales gleamed under the chamber's lights. "The plan remains unchanged," he hissed. "We have the superior force. We will crush their defenses and take what we need." Murmurs of agreement rippled through one section of the chamber, but they were met with equally vocal opposition. Ambassador Leary, a small avian creature known for her diplomatic skills, fluttered to the center of the room. "Have we learned nothing from our history?" she chirped, her voice filled with passion. "Every species we've underestimated has surprised us. The humans have already done so by discovering our fleet. Who knows what else they're capable of?" As the debate raged on, a junior member of the council slipped out of the chamber unnoticed. Counselor Etherin, young by the standards of his long-lived species, made his way to a secure communication room. With trembling tentacles, Etherin activated a highly encrypted channel. The face that appeared on the screen made his heart race. It was Sarah Chen, the human journalist who had exposed their plans. "Sarah," Etherin whispered, "I don't have much time. The council is in chaos. Many still want to proceed with the invasion, but others are arguing for caution." Sarah's eyes widened. "Etherin, you have to convince them to call it off. Earth is prepared to defend itself. This war would be devastating for both sides." Etherin nodded, his bioluminescent spots pulsing with anxiety. "I'm trying, but I'm just one voice. We need more time." Suddenly, alarms blared through the complex. Etherin's spots flashed in panic. "They've detected this transmission. Sarah, be careful. I'll do what I can here." The screen went black as Etherin cut the connection. He turned to find himself surrounded by security drones. Back in the council chamber, the alarms had brought the debate to a halt. Admiral Krotak stormed in, his eyes blazing with fury. "We have a traitor among us," he roared. "Someone has been communicating with the humans." The chamber erupted into chaos once more. Accusations flew as council members eyed each other suspiciously. High Counselor Zixnera raised her arms, calling for calm. "This changes everything," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We cannot proceed with the invasion while our own ranks are divided." Admiral Krotak's tail lashed in anger. "We cannot show weakness. The humans must be subdued. And if we fail," Ambassador Leary interjected, "if the humans defeat us, it could destabilize the entire council. We could be looking at a galactic war." As the arguments continued, a new voice entered the fray. It was Thorlak, the council spokesperson who had encountered Sarah during her escape. "Perhaps," Thorlak said slowly, "we have been too hasty in our judgment of the humans. Their resourcefulness, it could be an asset to the council, rather than a threat." A hush fell over the chamber as the council members considered this new perspective. Even Admiral Krotak seemed to hesitate. High Counselor Zixnera nodded thoughtfully. "We need more information. I propose we send a diplomatic envoy to Earth, not to threaten, but to observe and negotiate." The suggestion was met with a mixture of reluctant agreement and cautious optimism. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. As the council session adjourned, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The coming days would determine whether the first contact between Earth and the Galactic Council would end in war or usher in a new era of cooperation. In a holding cell deep within the council complex, Councillor Etherin sat alone, wondering if his actions had made a difference. Little did he know, his small act of rebellion had set in motion events that would change the course of galactic history. The atmosphere in the United Nations Emergency Command Center was tense. Secretary General Amina Khoury stood before a massive holographic display, her eyes fixed on the approaching dots representing the Galactic Council's fleet. "Time to intercept," she asked, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. A young officer responded, "6 hours, Madam Secretary." Amina nodded, then turned to face the room filled with world leaders and military commanders. "This is it," she said. "Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few hours. Are we ready?" Dr. Aisha Patel stepped forward, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. "The global shield is at 98% capacity. We're still working on the polar regions, but it should be fully operational within the hour." As if on cue, alarms began blaring. A technician called out, "Madam Secretary, we're detecting a small craft approaching Earth at high speed. It's broadcasting on all frequencies." The room fell silent as a voice filled the air. "People of Earth, this is Ambassador Leary of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and request permission to land and open diplomatic channels." Confused murmurs broke out across the room. Was this a trick? A last-minute attempt at deception? Amina raised her hand for silence. "Can we verify this transmission?" After a tense moment, a communications officer nodded. "It matches the diplomatic codes we received from Sarah Chen. It appears to be genuine." Amina's mind raced. This could change everything, or it could be a dangerous trap. She looked around the room, seeing the same uncertainty reflected in the eyes of her colleagues. "We can't take any chances," she said finally. "Maintain shield readiness, but allow the ambassador's ship to land at the designated first contact site. I'll meet them personally." As preparations were made for the ambassador's arrival, activity on the other side of the globe reached a fever pitch. In a secret facility deep in the Himalayas, Dr. Patel and her team worked frantically to bring the final sections of the planetary shield online. "Power fluctuations in Sector 7, shouted one of the engineers. Aisha rushed to the console, her fingers flying over the controls. "Reroute power from the secondary grid," she ordered. "We can't afford any weak points." As the minutes ticked by, the tension in both locations, the landing site and the shield control center, grew palpable. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. At the landing site, a sleek alien craft touched down. Amina stood at the head of a welcoming committee, a mixture of diplomats and heavily armed security personnel. The ship's door opened with a hiss, and out stepped Ambassador Leary. Her avian features a stark reminder of how alien this encounter truly was. "Secretary General Khoury," Leary chirped, bowing slightly. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our deepest apologies for the misunderstanding that has brought us to this point." Amina's eyebrows rose. "Misunderstanding? You were planning an invasion." Leary's feathers ruffled in what seemed like embarrassment. "A grave error in judgment by certain factions within the Council, one that we hope to rectify. We've come to negotiate peace, and if you're willing, to discuss Earth's potential membership in the galactic community." As this unprecedented diplomatic meeting unfolded, Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the comm system. "Shield at 100% capacity. We've done it." A cheer went up from the assembled humans, causing Leary to step back in surprise. Amina couldn't help but smile. "It seems, Ambassador, that we have much to discuss. But first, I believe you have a fleet to recall." Leary nodded, reaching for a communication device. But before she could activate it, alarms blared once again. A panicked voice came over the comm. "Multiple ships breaking formation. They're accelerating towards Earth." Amina's eyes locked with Leary's. The ambassador's expression was one of horror. "Rogue elements," Leary whispered. "They're defying the Council's orders." As the rogue ships approached, humanity's untested shield was about to face its trial by fire. The next few minutes would determine the fate of Earth and, potentially, the future of galactic politics. In the Himalayan facility, Dr. Patel took a deep breath. "This is what we prepared for," she said to her team. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity is made of." The final countdown had begun. The sky above Earth lit up with an otherworldly glow as the rogue Galactic Council ships entered the atmosphere. Their weapons, designed to obliterate entire cities, fired relentlessly against Earth's newly erected shield. In the Himalayan Control Center, Dr. Aisha Patel watched the incoming barrage with bated breath. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she called out, "Shield holding at 92% capacity. Rerouting power to stressed sections." Around the globe, humanity stood united, eyes turned skyward. In Times Square, crowds watched in awe as energy blasts dissipated harmlessly against the invisible barrier. In the beaches of Rio, people cheered as each unsuccessful attack proved the shield's worth. Back at the landing site, Secretary General Amina Khoury turned to Ambassador Leary. "Can you stop them?" she demanded. Leary's feathers were ruffled in distress. "I'm trying, but they've blocked our frequencies. This attack was not sanctioned by the Council." Amina's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll handle this ourselves." "Dr. Patel, status report." Aisha's voice crackled over the comm. "Shield holding, but we're seeing some strain. We need to end this quickly." As if in response to her words, a new alarm blared. A technician called out, "Massive energy buildup detected in the lead ship. They're preparing to fire their main weapon." Time seemed to slow as the enormous energy beam lanced towards Earth. It struck the shield with a blinding flash, the impact felt as tremors across the planet. For a heart-stopping moment, silence fell. Then, Aisha's triumphant voice filled the airwaves. "Shield holding at 85%. We did it. The main weapon couldn't penetrate." A roar of jubilation erupted across the globe. Humanity had stood its ground against the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. In orbit, the reality of their failure dawned on the rogue captains. One by one, their ships began to retreat, their invincibility shattered by human ingenuity. As the immediate threat passed, Amina turned to Leary. "I believe it's time for that discussion about Earth joining the galactic community. But on our terms." Leary nodded, a mixture of awe and respect in her eyes. "Indeed, the Council will have much to answer for, and much to learn from Earth." In the days that followed, the story of Earth's stand against the Galactic Council spread across the stars. Sarah Chin, the journalist who had risked everything to warn her planet, was hailed as a hero. Dr. Aisha Patel became a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. A month later, in a ceremony broadcast across Earth and to thousands of alien worlds, Secretary General Amina Khoury signed the treaty that officially made Earth a member of the Galactic Council. Today, Amina's voice rang out, "We take our place among the stars not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals. We have shown the galaxy the strength of humanity, not just in our technology, but in our unity, our creativity, and our indomitable spirit." As she spoke, screens showed scenes from around the world. The shield generators standing proud, teams of human scientists working alongside alien counterparts, and Earth ships preparing for their first official voyage to distant stars. In the Himalayan facility, now a hub for human-alien scientific cooperation, Dr. Patel smiled as she watched the ceremony. A small alien child, part of a cultural exchange program, tugged at her lab coat. "Dr. Patel," it chirped, "will you teach me how to build a shield like Earth's?" Aisha knelt down, her eyes twinkling. "I'll teach you something even better. I'll show you how to bring people together to solve impossible problems. That's the real power of humanity." As night fell on this historic day, people across Earth celebrated. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged stronger, wiser, and united. The future stretched out before them, filled with endless possibilities. In the vast tapestry of the galaxy, Earth now shone as a bright point of light, a beacon of hope, innovation, and the indomitable human spirit. The chaos was over, and a new era of galactic cooperation had begun, with humanity leading the way.